Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Bob Chronicles with your host, Christian Paul speaking. And now the second strip in this whole ordeal after 2 years. It's been a crazy boozy, man. I tell you, I've been watching a lot of craziness is coming up in these social media streets. Marvin Gaines frequently crashing out after having much of his social media platforms either get demonetized or actually get deplatformed. And all he got left is Rumble and X, which he is in mainly danger of literally being possibly the platform from those if he literally goes way too far with some of the shit that he's doing. All right, and it's just literally crazy seeing Homeboy literally crash out right in front of the entire world to see. And it's a huge, huge blessing. So recently, there was an episode sometime like this week around the time of this recording, in which Selena Powell was a recent guest up in a podcast, and she was there before with the other chick that worked in real estate years ago, if I'm not mistaken. I think this was CJ Academics ex-chick, and I believe the security card that was there is basically cool with Selena Powell as well, from what I was hearing. And due to the fact that, basically the mind does his usual rain and rile the girls up, get them all drunk, get them all shit-faced and everything else. And they try to get him to a point where he has a slight upper hand, that's really trying to dominate his narrative and dominate his rhetoric. And whatever any woman tries to challenge him or whenever he get ticked off, boom, here comes a kick out. Right? Boom, a viral moment that he always mainly does, which is literally soon fade out, and it's becoming extremely cringe and corny. All right? So we deal with that. Basically, Myron kicked Selena out, and all of a sudden shit just literally went left from the jump, with certain women fighting, certain women beefing, a lot of people literally mainly acting an ass, which we already know both Fresh&Fit are hardcore cornballs and hardcore douchebags. Much of the pseudo red pill community, much of the red pill community that you see up in these YouTube streets, much of these red pillars that they claim to actually be taking the pill, are actually illegitimate and have their own quote that they mainly formed just to mainly trap young and naive men up into their rhetoric, just because they are miserable and they are struggling with women and they are deeply insecure within themselves, and they're looking for an epithet that actually mainly supports their little misery out there. You know what I'm saying? So we already know these dudes are mainly a bunch of real ass losers. Now, despite all the money they earning from YouTube and everything else, They souls are hollow. They souls are literally like loser-esque. All right. They are literally miserable people literally behind the scenes. They're as anxious. They're actually dealing with a lot of stress and a lot of heat, just as much as like the average young and naive man that's actually going through daily traumas up in his life. Okay. Now, I want to try and direct my attention toward the women that often go to his podcast and are aware of actually Myron and Fresh's antics or any pseudo red pill's antics. Now all their controversies are exposed. You notice that these creators, will still have women on their podcasts after the fact that they got exposed with hypocrisy. You see it with Fresh&Fit, you see it with No Fugazee Podcast, with Cooley being hardcore Fugazi to the core. Okay, you see some of that stuff mainly going down. And as I look at this, around the time of this recording, I'm actually seeing all this stuff through social media. Okay, you're seeing all these critics that came by. You see single moms. You see women. Okay, still come through in this podcast. You know what I'm saying? Given all the information you have, why would you still go? Why would you still go and actually try and actually seek guidance from people that are literally illegitimate? And now there are some people, I'm not going to go all the way out, because there definitely are some women that are definitely still naive, that aren't really been told the whole full story as to which podcast they're mainly going with and what they are speaking about and what are the topics that they mainly bring. And that's the unfortunate part when it comes to these pseudo red pill gurus. They want to actually try and get a leg up on the conversation, and literally try and catch these women off guard as to what the heck they talking about, giving like all these hardcore thorough statistics without any form of thorough explanation on how those results mainly came to be in the first place, on how these researchers found those statistics, on where they get those statistics from. They're out here trying to utilize those statistics just to actually try and fuel their own narrative. And that's the unfortunate part of that. But to those actually very aware of who these people are and what their mindsets are, and y'all been knowing them for months to years, why would you still go on a podcast? I really, really, really am concerned. Like, why would you still go? Now you have all the information that you have, or even if you have other friends there. Like, you know, it's hard for me to actually gain sympathy, those that still chose to actually be in these types of podcasts, you know, after actually knowing all this stuff about these guys. You know, it's really, really hard for me to actually really try and actually gain sympathy for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, why deal with these type of people that aren't really going to give two fucks about you? I'm going to literally try to feed your ass down to the wolves. Why? You know, and there are other people. Yes, I get it. You want to try and get fame. You want to try and get instant clout. But, you know, you getting humiliated literally by these dudes and being plastered all over social media. Not just that, but the whole internet for the whole world to see. That they'll hold clips of those videos of you when they're literally acting a fool forever. And that can definitely affect your legacy later on down the line whenever, you know, OnlyFans is done or whatever, you know, you're doing all the IG stuff. God forbid that phases out, or if you're actually working a full-time professional job, you know that stuff can literally hamper you. So my question is to the ladies that actually still choose to come on is, why do it? Why go into these pseudo red pill podcasting and thinking that you actually try and go one up somebody, while the best way to handle something like that is just to actually leave these pricks alone. Let them be, let them go. Now that you know the information, like, why are you still there? There are plenty of other podcasts, even you can go to various podcasts and deal with like a lot of taboo or, you know, basically like some fun topics that don't even talk about this crazy red pill pseudo nonsense that's mainly been brought up. You ain't gotta be worrying about doing all that stuff. There's no need for that. Why deal with it? And this is something that I actually mainly want to point out, especially with Selena Powell. Like, why would you still choose to be on that show? Even if this friend is there, but you know the history. Why would you go? Why? Just why would you try to humiliate yourself like that? You got a bunch of fans that literally just trying to look at the video saying, girl, what the heck were you doing up in that studio days ago? Like, you way worth more than that. You better than that. And I fully agree with what the fans be saying. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. You know, ladies, just please think about like what's going on, because many of these pseudo red pill gurus are on the path to obscurity already. The pseudo red pill community is basically literally dying out as we speak right now, and it's going to continue to die out now that more of the hypocrisy and they stick is getting exposed day by day by day. And I'm gonna leave it at that, ladies and gentlemen. Chris and Paul from the Bob Chronicles is signing out. Deuces.